It's such a good day. So here we are. It looks like we're live on a couple streaming platforms. So if you happen to be joining us live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you're seeing this, I've got a great guest here. A good friend of mine, Andrew, is going to be sharing some of his story today. And we're doing a live recording of the Real Estate Greatness podcast. So I'm going to do a quick introduction for the post recording, and then we'll be off to the races. So welcome back to the Real Estate Greatness podcast. I'm your host, Scottie Campbell, and today I am super pumped that we've got a phenomenal guest for you. You're in for a treat. We're going to be telling a story and learning more about a family that has been grinding it out and making big things happen with small seeds, is the way that I would kind of precurse this story. I've got my good friend Andrew with us today. And as we get started, I just want to encourage you, remember, this podcast is all about inspiring abundance. You don't have to be great at something to start, but you do have to start in order to be great. So with that said, Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Dude, I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this. So I always like to start out just learning a little bit more about you. Can you tell our audience kind of something? Let's start with a fun question. What's something that nobody would know about you, even after they've known you for, say, 5-6 years like I have?
Oh, man, something people wouldn't know about me?
Something that's not like, always out there in front of folks.
My life is, my brain goes to my kids, but yeah, I mean, I'm still obviously in the military. I spent almost 13 years active duty, if you round up. So that's not always out there. And I'm still technically in. So active duty and for a few years. And I am 2 years to retirement, Scottie.
Dude, I did not know that. There you go. That's a good one. So first of all, thank you for your service. Tell us a little bit about your military career. What branch, what your MOS has been?
Yeah, so I'm prior Navy, joined in 05, unfortunately watched Twin Towers fall my first week of freshman high school. So kind of stamped something on my heart, and I just kind of had to bide and wait my time. And, I got out and technically on MLK Day of 2018. So I am now pushing, I'll be pushing 6 years being out here soon, which is crazy because that time has flown. Spent some time, 5 years overseas. That was, I mean, instantly out of boot camp and A school, Navy, I did mechanical engineering, was straight off to Japan. And when we leave for deployment, that's where we left from. And when we came back home, that's where we came from. So I speak probably better Japanese and Arabic than I do Spanish. It's a joke, not anymore. But at one point in time I did.
Yeah. I don't know how much Spanish you speak, but I know you understand it pretty well.
I do understand it. Yeah, my wife and mother-in-law speak it fluently, and I always catch them in the act of, talking about how horrible my cooking is or something like that. So,
well, I try to when I've been around your family, I've always tried to fit in. I'm like a text like gracias, de nada.
Yeah, we'll skip that piece.
So overseas, 5 years. That's a long time. What did that do to kind of fuel the next stage of your career? Because obviously, at some point, you chose real estate. How did that come to be?
Yeah, so both my parents were realtors towards the end of my childhood, pretty much the last couple of years of my high school career. Okay. And going overseas, it was completely it was Navy all day. Nothing. I never thought about real estate. You're overseas, you're not thinking about buying a home or. You're just doing the mission. And so came back in 2010, late 2010, and bought my first house. My mom was my realtor, and that was a fun experience and really good. And a couple years later, got married and realized that my wife had her license, but she wasn't practicing. And I'd just been raised in the business. Never wanted to do real estate. I wanted nothing to do with being a realtor. I saw all the horrible things. I remember. My dad waking me up real late, be like, Neil, come on, I need your help, and we're going to load up the truck to go grab all his files, or whatever things, because he was going to leave the brokerage the next day. It's not like we had all these email backups. He had to get copies of papers, and I just wasn't excited about it. And I took a recruiting tour in Los Angeles, which is where I'm originally from. And all my recruiting buddies, everybody's buying a home, right? Because you're in recruiting, so you're all over the place, and people would say they'd be in these horrible transactions, things would be going wrong, and I'd be like, you should tell your agent to do this, or you should be doing that. I'd get all these calls, and I ended up kind of being the command real estate guru. And my wife was like, I have my license, you should get yours. You're already doing half the work for these people. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And I said, well, I'll just do it part-time, just do it part-time. And started just plugging away. I would get off of recruiting. I'd get out the monkey suit, as I call it. I'd have extra clothes. I'd go show one property, maybe two after hours, because the traffic was so bad. I would be, beating the streets with open houses on Saturday and Sunday. I mean, I was working, I think my last couple of years, I don't think I really took a day off, just because, we were paying off debt, and I've kind of found this way. I didn't want to go back on deployments. I want to do deployment rotation. We had 3 girls at the time, and we had just found out that we were pregnant with our 4th child, which ended up being our son. And so it really just changed, real estate has essentially changed my life and giving that opportunity. And then we decided we didn't want to stay there, and we moved to Belton, and then now here in Waco, and we are, full steam ahead, and have been in real estate since, now we're kind of going on almost 10 years in real estate.
That's wild, man. I remember meeting you, I think it was 2018, not long after you guys had moved to Texas. Is that the right timeline?
I want to say it's about that. Yeah, I think we actually met at an open house.
We met at an open house. And I've always respected the hustle. I've always thought, this is a guy, I think when we met, you guys were just about to, or had just had your 4th kid, if I recall. And I thought, man, this is a family man who is devoted to building something bigger for his family. So I've always respected that about you, and kind of been attracted to that energy, if you will. But you've also impressed me with your ability to prioritize your family in the middle of all of that. And I think that's something that a lot of folks experience as a challenge in the real estate business, because deals happen when deals happen, evenings, weekends, whatever. And sometimes it's hard to have that separation, and it's hard to really put your family first. How has that worked for you guys?
I think it's a never-ending game. And I think that, first of all, we have to give ourselves grace. I think it's very, very easy for us as entrepreneurs to, work our tail off, and then turn around and beat ourselves up because we don't spend enough time with our family. But then go spend time with family, and then turn around and say, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm preaching from a glass house. Go on vacation and then come back and beat ourselves up for going on vacation, saying, what did I do? I just took a week off. I haven't done any calls. I haven't done anything. Now in 30 to 45 days from now, I'm not going to have a paycheck. This is a constant battle. And I think what we have to do is realize there is no right or wrong. There just is. And there are benefits and drawbacks to everything. People call them pros and cons. If you want to be a quote unquote workaholic, and work your tail off, there's going to be benefits from that your family will get. But if you're going to do that, and that's your choice, you better make it to something that's going to stand a lot longer than your time here on earth.
That's good. Man.
What I mean by that is that generational wealth portion, to where somebody, when my grandmother passed away last year, I got to see some things happen that my grandfather had done over 20 years, 30 years ago, or before, much longer than that, because I was 5 when he passed away. I'm now 36. So well over 30 years ago, to correct my math. And I was I think I was I don't know if impressed is the right word, but more just, I just felt some gratitude and understanding that I was able to see some things that my grandfather put in place and my grandmother had put in place come full fold, much further down the line, and take care of, their children. Even my family was blessed by some of those things. And I said, okay, got it. This is kind of a thing that I want to be a part of.
Are you talking about financial blessings? Are you talking about, clarify that?
Yeah. So, just, if you were to talk to some of my family, so for instance, if you take my dad would say, your grandfather never missed a game, right? Never missed a game, never missed a practice. And my father never missed a game, never missed a practice. So I got that aspect and that portion where I don't miss practices if I can go to them, and I don't miss games, right? These are non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side. My grandfather was a Korean War vet. He was at the Battle of Chosin. He enlisted at 16, maybe 17. I've got pictures of him. Recruiter was an absolute idiot. There's no way you could, you look at pictures, there's no way he was 18.
Yeah.
But he went and he did his thing, and he absolutely hated it. And, he had horrible PTS, but he comes back stateside and he becomes this entrepreneur, and he opens up these clothing stores, multiple stores, had great financial mentors, and kind of grew this clothing empire, and bought this home and did all these things financially. But if you talk to a lot of my siblings or even my grandmother, they would say, always working, always at the store, always in the office. Okay, so you've got two total pieces of that spectrum, and both of them have blessed me and my family, because I realized that I get to look at my grandfather and my dad and know that family's a priority. And I've seen the benefits and drawbacks of that, because at the end of my grandfather's life, he didn't have anything. There was nothing but Social Security. On the other end, you've got a grandfather that was able to leave a little bit of financial legacy and take care of my grandfather after he passed. I mean, my grandmother lived another 30 years, 31 years past his death. So that was a long time.
So this is two different grandfathers.
They're two different grandfathers.
Two different paths. Kind of almost like the Rich Dad Poor Dad book in a way here is kind of what's playing in my head. Just the mentality of it all, and realizing that we're planting seeds with every action that we take, right?
Yep.
Which is kind of how I started introducing you, by the way. Is I see you as somebody who has planted many seeds and had many seeds planted in you, and I love that you're kind of just coming into that part of your story. So, with all of this culture that came from your family, what made it possible for you and Karla to kind of like carve into your own? You moved halfway across the country, planted a flag in Central Texas. You're wearing the A&M shirt like you're a true fan, like you grew up here. I mean, it's just really interesting how you guys have kind of carved your own path. Even you brought your parents out here with you, both sides. Speak to that, and really, I don't know if I can say this, but the cojones that it took to make that happen. That's a big deal.
I want this to be accepted or heard with and know that I'm saying it in a very respectful way, because it's the way I felt kind of coming here from California, but the heart of an immigrant. Regardless of what people's issues are in immigration policy, we're not going to obviously get on all those things, right?
Sure.
But what I mean in that is we talk about the base of our history, right? And we talk about, Paris Island in New York, and I've been there, right? I've seen the book with people's names in it. I've seen the pictures. I've been able to see these things. I've watched families come over here and do things that the average American does not. What is the difference? The difference is that when you back somebody into a corner who has nothing to lose, you better be careful of them, right? I've learned a long time ago, you never bully a kid into a corner, because at that point they got nowhere else to go but straight back at you, right?
That's right. That's exactly
I wasn't the one who was I wasn't the one bullying, but I was the one being bullied, and I don't mean bully, I mean just in the wrong place at the wrong time from the wrong block. So, coming here, I think being able to have that heart of, I've got nothing to lose. They always say, if we start from the bottom, you only can go up from there, and I'm really grateful to, the U.S. military, United States Navy. I always say I had two upbringings, but just being able to believe and take a bet on yourself. Seriously.
Yeah.
Bet on yourself. Know that you're going to lose. It's not, oh, am I going to lose? Am I? Yes, you will. You will lose sometimes. But Hall of Famers in baseball make it only batting 300. I mean, come on, that's 3 wins. Out of every 10 bets, that's 3 wins and 7 losses. Because the wins are so much bigger than the losses. And here's the cool part: I had a mentor. We were doing this real estate deal together, and our rates had just changed sometime last year, and we did this gorgeous flip. I mean, Karla just did an amazing job, and I remember calling him and being like, I'm so sorry. We're just, we totally lost on this. And what I was mentioning, what I meant by losing was that we really weren't making anything close to what we were supposed to, but we were actually still walking away with a paycheck in our hand after everything was paid off and, closing costs and all that. And I was kind of calling to apologize to our partners / mentor, and his wife Sandra gets on, and shout out to Jerry Stapp and Sandra Stapp out in California, my first broker. And Sandra says, she says, honey, when you lose, the good part is that you learn lessons through it. She says, and you normally have to pay money to learn lessons. You have to pay the money to learn a lesson. She says, you got to learn some lessons, and we even learned lessons in this one. And we're walking away with a paycheck. This is a double win all day long. So when you can look at your quote unquote losses and just sit down and take down a lesson inventory, then you know what you're walking away with. Then you're not so scared to go make the next bet. See what happens if people see the bet, they see the loss, and they say, oh, what I lost was I lost a friendship, I lost a marriage, I lost the relationship, I lost the money. But what did you gain? We're so close to just look at what we lost.
Dude,
right?
that's such an important mentality shift. For those listening, I want to make sure that we double down on this for a second, because this is probably one of the biggest principles in understanding failure versus success, in understanding self-motivation. And, a lot of us that work in and around real estate also have performance anxiety from time to time. We a lot of us are a D or an I personality on the DISC profile, and therefore a lot of us experience this feeling of, if we're failing, for a D personality, it's like, if I'm failing, that's the worst thing in the world for me, and I'm gonna be in control of my failure, so I'm gonna fail hard. For an I personality, it's like, I've just lost everybody's trust in me, and everybody thinks that I suck now, and so there's a book that I've recently read called The Gap and the Gain. Have you heard of that book?
No, I haven't.
It's a great book, dude. Totally encourage you to check it out. The Gap and the Gain. And the guy who writes it, he's been an entrepreneurial coach for, gosh, I think like 40, 50, almost 50 years. I think he's in his 70s. So I think it's been like literally 50 years. And what he's really kind of communicating is, we have these choice moments in life every single day where we can live in our gap, or we can live in a gain moment, and we can, essentially measure the two against each other. I'll give you an example. My wife and I get not so many date nights now as we used to. We got a few kids. You guys know how that feels, right?
You got to figure it out.
We're gonna go somewhere. What was that? Sorry.
Said you got to just get it in.
He's got to exactly. So we're gonna go somewhere, and we've got this plan, and all of a sudden she's running a few minutes late, right? Go figure. And now you're ready, and you're just walking around because you're ready to go, and you're kind of like, well, now I'm wasting time. Especially as a high performing individual, every second of life counts. I got to do something to move the needle. And instead of saying, oh, honey, you look so beautiful, I'm so thankful that I get to go spend some time with my beautiful bride tonight and date my wife, and whatever nice things you could say. Instead, you're like, man, can you ever be ready on time? Like, is it possible for you to just one freaking time, woman, can you be ready on time? That's the gap versus the gain, right? Because now you have set the tone for a terrible time together and for the evening. And eventually you're going to have to apologize, or else it's, you're never going to recover. Does that make sense?
I think it does. I kind of want to attribute something real quick, where I was, after my father passed, and where I'm at today, and what you're talking about in the gap and the gain, is two totally different places. My mentor, one of my mentors now, it goes by the name of Dr. Rewire, Alok Trivedi. He's also got a new book out. I should have it somewhere with me. But all that being said, it's called Financial Rewire, I believe. And
okay,
you talk about the gap, and I believe the gap comes from setting expectations, right? Which means, I mean, come on, you talk about going out and being upset that they're running behind. Right now, you could say we should probably set the expectation that we're going to run late, right? So why not just add another 15 minutes on top of that, right? Why not add another 30? Yep. And just know, hey, I told her we need to leave by noon. It's not going to happen until 12:15. Is what it is. Let's keep it going, right? But we set this expectation that because we say it, that it's supposed to happen. It's going to happen. And then we're met with this, broken expectation where the whole world shatters, right? And I think so many times here in what we're doing, we say, well, this is what I have to make. Okay, you just set an expectation.
Yeah.
This is what is going to happen. You're now expecting that outcome. And saying, if this doesn't happen, this is a loss. So what you're now is you're saying this is not good. Instead of saying, if I can go into this and come out of this still alive and ready to breathe tomorrow, then I won. I just want to make sure that I learn and I get better.
Yeah.
Do
you think that a lot of people, like, they're willing to say that? They're willing to say that they'll go into a project that way, but then coming back out of it, it's really painful if you didn't have the win that you expected in your mind, right?
I think anytime you set expectations, you set yourself up for disappointment. Any freaking time. And so people always say, well, Andrew, what do I do? Just drop my expectations, because, Karla and I are coaching, and I do, wealth coaching, and people say, well, what am I supposed to have? Am I just supposed to drop all expectations and let it all go? I said, no, but we can have standards. And the big difference, Scott, is this. When things aren't met in life in that expectation, right? When you set an expectation and it doesn't meet it, there's this emotional breakdown. We completely lose it. And we say, oh my gosh, this didn't happen. Or, oh my gosh, this did happen, and we just lose it. The problem with that is it's now taking you through this emotional, I don't know what you want to call it, chaos.
It was like a roller coaster of sorts that you don't have to put yourself through, probably.
So for instance, I'll make it really easy. I don't have expectations in my home. We have standards. And when those standards are not met, there's consequences. So the difference is, okay, I have a 16-year-old, the whole boy thing, the high school, the dance, hey, daughter, you're not allowed to do these things. Those are standards. Now, if I had expectations that she wasn't going to do the things that I told her she's not to do, then at the end of it, I would almost be in this place of, I can't believe she did that. I can't believe she lied to me. She's 16. She's going to lie to me. Right? I can't believe she still did that. Well, at 16, I was pretty dang defiant myself, right? Instead of just understanding and looking at her and saying, hey, you know what? I set the standards. You didn't follow them. And so there's consequences. Now I get to walk away emotionally balanced.
Yeah, that's good. Wow, that's so good.
It's a lot easier said than done. I'm not going to say that this is, just something that, I'm just going to think what Andrew said, or, what Dr. T's putting out, and it just happens. It's a practice like anything else.
So standards versus expectations, if I'm hearing this right, it's really a way to keep yourself in a place of positivity and a place of not going into a gap mentality, but being able to say, well, this was the standard, we missed it. And when you're talking about in the context of raising children and teaching children, here's your standard, you missed it, here's the consequence.
Absolutely.
Right? So how does that apply to real estate? How does that apply to, let's say, the scenario you were talking about earlier, somebody who wants to do a flip and kind of goes through that process that you went through, that your mentors encouraged you, that story you told a few minutes ago. How does the standard versus expectation apply to that?
Well, so let's talk about that. But I want to make sure that we are steering away from being in this positive mindset. You'll hear so much of these people talking about stay positive, stay positive, stay positive. That's an easy way to set yourself up for a loss, right? Yeah. If we get back to science and we understand that the world is in balance, right? You have your positive charge, your negative charge, everything, right? You get back to basic math, it's going to even out in the end. So if you are super positive in something, guess what? Reality is going to bring you back to balance. That means a negative thing has to come and happen to bring you back to balance. Because if you're super positive, you're running around in this prideful state, right? So if we go back to how does this play out in real estate, the biggest part really comes down to, what are you expecting out of it? So if I walk into something and let's say I do a flip and I don't make $1 and I realize that I actually lost money because the time that it took me to be a part of the flip, to make the flip happen, in the end, I'm not going to be able to really pay myself back for the 3 months that I just, because in essence, that's almost how I felt, right? It was like 3-4 months of organizing and coordinating and doing this flip and doing all that stuff, plus all the other things. I mean, We only get 24 hours in a day, right? So if we only get 24 hours, that money, that 24 hours, I believe to me is like $24 every day, right? Or $2,400, however you want to say it. You can only spend it one way. And if you're not actively spending it, it spends itself. It's just this thing that
it's
goes.
gonna get spent, or you're gonna spend it, I guess.
Either it's one or the other.
Yeah.
And so I think to turn back around and say, how does this expectation and standard? I had an expectation that we were going to make a certain amount. In the end, we didn't make that amount. But the standard was I got to walk away with a lesson and with an understanding of I'm not going to make the same mistakes twice. The problem is too many of us don't realize that there was lessons to be learned. We allow that portion of what we perceive to be negative, right? So the expectation didn't happen. I didn't make 50 grand on it. I only made 20. So you know what? This hurt so bad. I'm never going to do this again. Meaning the whole thing, right? So we just walk away. And so you never bet on yourself again because one time it didn't work out, right? And I think that's where it really messes things up, is that we just get in this emotional place. And if I would have stopped at the first time, what would have happened, right?
Hi. Hey, baby girl. Hey, mama.
Family life.
I love it. You guys really have found a harmony between life and work and everything that you do. I mean, that's just evidenced by what just occurred, here live. I love it.
Well, I want to say something that I think, we talk about finding. We talk about, I want to be in a place, or, to even say like, hey, you found it. The only thing I've found is that as long as you keep pushing, there really is no ivory tower. There is no end of the journey. I've asked older folks all the time, hey, did you ever find balance? And then, they'll say, Andrew, I'm 85 and I'm still trying to find it. Now I've got too much time on my hands and not enough people want to hang out. You talk to somebody young and they've got all the time, but they don't have time to hang out with people.
That's true.
And so I think that striving part, it's never found, Scottie. It's just always strive for. That's all.
No, bro, that's really good. I agree with that. We've kind of, in my household, we've really obliterated that word balance. We don't even use it. But we do talk about harmony. We do talk about, the ebbs and flows of life, and, the things that are important to my wife, things that are important to us together, things that are important to me. And then as we've got young kids, but as they grow up, I mean, you got, teenager now. And how old's your youngest? 2, 3?
The baby will be 3 in December.
3 in December. Yep. Okay. So you've got kids ranging all through those ages. And it's important at every stage along the way of development that, they feel valued, and they also realize that they're part of the journey. Speaking of which, you and Karla started your own real estate group, what, a year or so ago?
We just hit 2 years. Yeah.
2 years. Okay. F3, tell us a little bit about what F3 Ranch and Realty, like, what's that stand for? How have you guys found more purpose in your business by kind of starting your own group?
Yeah, I think it's really cool to be able to just, brand yourself into something that you believe in. So, F3, it's just a cattle brand, and it stands for faith, family, and freedom. The 3 most important things that anybody can cling to in the universe. It's not a specific faith. It's not a specific type of family, but just the ability to, somebody said, well, what faith? Or, hey, have faith in yourself. Have faith that you can do it. And, geez Louise, you're talking to somebody I've spent more time probably, in the last 18 years with certain people that were not my blood than I have with people my blood. You want to talk about family goes a lot deeper than blood with me. And there's guys that, I love them to death. They get a kiss on the cheek every time, they're brothers in arms. So family is really big. And obviously we live in the greatest country on the planet, and just because of what our core beliefs are. And so
for sure. No, but I love that. And I think it's important that, anybody who is starting a business, has a business, whether you're, brand new to it, or whether you're thinking about launching something, you have to do it with purpose, right? Like, I love that you guys have purpose in the name. Faith is a core to who you are and what you do. And, you and I happen to share the same faith. And even the name of my company, Waymaker, it comes. People ask me, are you guys a faith-based company? And I said, well, no, not specifically. We're a for-profit company, but we're a company that's run by people of faith. And what that faith looks like, well, I'm happy to share mine with you if you're asking. But ultimately, you have to find something to grab a hold of and believe in. And I'm happy to take you on the journey with me if you want. You know what I mean? So it's kind of you're not there to impose your thinking on somebody, but there to inspire and really show folks that, yes, through your brand, we're going to achieve excellence together, right? That's kind of what I see is you've got a reflection of who you are. And I can remember when you were working under a different banner, nothing bad, nothing negative, but I can remember that you were kind of hitting a ceiling with that. And there were times when you and I would talk and it'd be like, yeah, I got to do this. And it was got to, not get to, kind of have to, not get to. And I've not heard that from you in a while. And I love that. So that's really cool. You're kind of doing what you want to do now.
Yeah, I think anonymity is priceless. It is true freedom. It's just nice to know that you're furthering, for the most part, yourself, and that you're really just pushing, for your own goals, right? Mm-hmm. I think too many times we hold on to the goals that others have for us instead of saying, what are mine? Mine are to spend time with my children as much as possible, which is not always easy. But be in a place where, it's why I got out of the military. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore, and so super grateful, super happy to be where we're at.
So as we kind of round this thing out, man, I'd love for you to just tell me a little bit about the business itself and what you do. And for any of our listeners, if they're interested in partnering with you in some way, shape, or form, you got a lot going on. So if somebody's inspired by you today, they want to connect with you, what areas of business are you serving in that our listeners might find attractive?
Yeah. So first thing, I love coaching. I know that you know this, Scottie. We have deep conversations, and I'm not a hoorah type of coach. I like to show people how to do it. I love seeing the light bulb come on. And I learned that really early on in my Navy career. When we get new guys on the ships, everybody would heckle them and hassle them. And I'd be like, hey, go grab that diagram and let's go figure out the fuel system or the firefighting system, and just help them figure it out for themselves, right? That's awesome. Just being that guide. And so really stepping into coaching this year, which has been really awesome. So I'm a wealth coach, and really that's just getting over limiting beliefs. I mean, how we have been raised, what our dads have told us, what our mentors have told us, they're pushing us and or holding us back.
It's good. It's true.
I think it's interesting when we hear one thing and then we take it to heart and we totally go one way when it wasn't meant to be that way, or even the other way.
Sometimes you just need somebody to pull you in the right direction, and lead you from the front, and then sometimes you need someone to coach you from behind, coach from the rear.
Absolutely. So been doing that. Awesome. So we've been doing that a little bit. I do that for agents. I do that for just normal folks that just, they've been looking for something different, and I've seen a lot of things. I've been a part of a lot of programs. What we do is just different. And then real estate side, we're doing everything right now. So, ranch and realty, I've had folks call me and be like, Andrew, you helped us buy, you're a good friend. I know you don't do, residential anymore. Like, can you sell our house? And I'm like, where do we say that? And like, I know you just do farm and ranch. I'm like, we don't just do farm and ranch, but farm and ranch is a niche that we wanted to make sure that people knew and understood. So hopefully helping some clients here before the end of the year. We got a few people that are moving and buying and shaking a lot of land, large parcels. I've done small developments. So in terms of people with larger tracts that want to buy large tracts and then cut those up and, sometimes double the money. And then just the normal home buyer, the everyday family that's looking to, put their roots down. Obviously we're here in Central Texas out in Waco, but when it comes to farm and ranch, I've got more MLSs than I probably should, Scottie, from Sabor, Abor, and Austin, San Antonio, Central, Waco, and Dallas.
You have certainly been a unicorn in that way. I always know that if somebody's looking to find something specific, you can help them do that. And that's cool. And, I've seen you serve a lot of investors. I've seen you serve a lot of people who are really in that mentality of we want to grow our money and our influence and build that generational wealth. And I think that, you guys have such a heartbeat for that. So as we kind of close out here, are there any parting words that you would kind of leave with our audience today, in the frame of what I said earlier? You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. How would you motivate somebody or encourage somebody thinking about starting something today?
Yeah, I'm really been big lately for myself on bet on yourself, Andrew. So whoever is out there listening, I want you to look in the mirror and just say, bet on yourself today. But know that in every bet, you're going to lose, and it's okay. So bet on yourself, knowing you're going to lose sometimes, but that when the jackpot hits, you're going to be much more prouder, and that the losses aren't losses; they're just lessons. So W is for win, L is for lesson, not for loss. That's the way I look at it. I'm a big football guy. Obviously, A&M is going to be playing this weekend, so we'll be out at that game, and hope we don't lose. But if we do, it'll be a lesson for those kids.
You guys got a tough schedule this year, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, it'll be worse next year. So we'll see how it goes.
That's true. No, that's good though. I'm jotting that down and taking that away from this conversation. The L's are lessons, not losses. Celebrate your wins, right? Like, don't forget to celebrate. I think a lot of times those of us who are in this type of business, especially, it's on to the next, on to the next, on to the it's almost hard for us. It's hard for me anyway. I won't speak for you, but you probably agree. It's hard for me to even just sit down and enjoy the mountaintop view for like, 2 to 5 minutes after I've conquered something I've worked so hard for. It's just on to the next because there's another hill to conquer. But man, I think you've blessed us with some great wisdom today. I want to thank you for your time and your investment into our audience. And when we post this, I'll go ahead and put your contact info out there as well. So folks, reach out to Andrew if you've got any questions. These guys are phenomenal at everything he just said that they do. And, one of my favorite parts of our relationship is I know when we get on the phone, it's not going to be a quick phone call because we're going to go deep fast. And I enjoy that about you, brother. But that's a valuable thing, man. You challenged me. I told you the other day on the phone, we were kind of prepping for this. You challenged me a few, 6 weeks ago or so. I was kind of talking about personal health, and it's an area of my life that as I succeed in other areas, there's other areas that kind of go by the wayside, right? So being intentional is super, super important, and having friends and coaches and all of that. So, hey, thanks for your investment into our podcast today. Remember, audience, you do not have to be great when you start, but you've got to get started to be great. So if anything that we've said today has encouraged you or helped you, please share our podcast with at least 2, if not 3 people that you know that you think might benefit from the content. And make sure you subscribe. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care. Awesome, man. Great job.